Greetings, comrades. My name is Dragantles, and as you see from the title of this video, basically this is going, as a promise, this is my video about how the coronavirus has affected me over the past year. And there are two reasons why I wanted to do this video. The first is because it's an important part in history, and I decided that, well, I'm not just going to ignore it on my channel, because I know I've barely ignored the coronavirus pandemic. Decided to put something here on my channel, so when people do look through my content, they'll say, okay, look, okay, this is what happened when he went through the coronavirus pandemic. And the second reason why is because in my head I have like this ongoing fantasy in the situation, which is this guy, okay, maybe 20 years in the future, 20 years, okay, and as part of his school project, he has to go and look for people who survived the pandemic and see how they experienced. And so he's scrolling around on YouTube, and then he comes across this video, and he's gonna see the whole like playlist, the coronavirus video playlist I have, and he's going to see, okay, how'd this guy fare, and then he's going to come across this video. So I decided to go it's a bit more depth than just simply saying, okay, this is what's happened, latest development in coronavirus news and everything. When the coronavirus pandemic came around in late 2019, well, it was approaching England. I'll be honest, I don't think anyone really expected much. I don't think many people really expected it to get as big as it did. Sure, it was. We knew it would probably get here, but it seemed like a distant threat, really. You know, like how okay, near where I live, there's a shooting range a few miles away, and sometimes on a cold morning you can hear the gunshots in the distance, and so it's more like it's in the distance. You can hear it, you can hear about it, but you don't really think it's that close. Obviously, when it came to the Great Britain, we were all a bit concerned. And at that point in time, I had just entered Lent, Lent 2020, and I think it's in my video. There was the food shortages, well, not just food shortages, but the toilet paper shortages. Remember that? I took a picture of them, the missing pasta and the missing toilet paper, and I said, I think it's in that video, a later one, that my concern was if the coronavirus pandemic did come along, should I continue fasting, because otherwise I didn't want to be too weak to fight it off. Because at that point in time, we thought that it was very deadly, even though it has a very high survival rate. I think it was like maybe a week before, when I went to mass. Normally you would have the holy water, dip our fingers in to do sign of the cross, right? But there was no water there, and obviously that was as a precursor that stopped the coronavirus spreading. It was a little bit sad, because that's when mass really started changing. And of course, there was no shaking hands, we just had to nod at each other, and that's what we did. And then when the coronavirus entered my city, as I said in that video, my mother was the one who let me know, and so that's when I started my own self-isolation thing. So for some reason, I don't know why, it was like for over a week, I think it was, I just distanced myself from everything, so I survived on everything I had in my room. It got to the point that I ran out of milk, and I just had to have black coffee, just going tough. I made sure that I was safe, and I made sure I was clean, and I didn't risk catching it. But I guess it never truly came to me the impact it would be, and not just simply by saying, okay, well, I'm gonna have black coffee again for another few days, or I'll be locked at home for a little while, do online lessons. No, they weren't online lessons yet. They were still transferring everything online by that point. But then by the end of March, I think it was, yeah, it's probably a little bit later than it is today. A little bit later than that today. When I went home for the pandemic, basically me and my dad we cleaned it up a bit, and we took a bunch of stuff home so I could continue my studies. And from there we spent, I think it was like 6 months in lockdown. I mean, I know the lockdown actually wasn't that long, but I didn't really leave the house much for 6 months. And there was a bit of a scare in the early stage of that lockdown, in which we thought that we did have the coronavirus. And so we are isolating. I mean, I have gone for testing, and I've always been negative, but I never had a confirmed case. I might have had it maybe at some point, but it was never confirmed. When I came back after the pandemic, which was the start of the new year, I mean, it was very strange, because I had to do all my work online, and yeah, I had to go through a lot of coursework. So I went through my work online, I did my exams, and I came back in the summer. And I came back just before the end of term to clean up my room entirely, and we thought it was a bit of a waste, honestly, because I'd spent several months out of that room and then living there. So they gave us a discount or something after a lot of pressure, because That last accommodation was a bit more stingy with their money. Then we came to this accommodation, which were a bit more understanding, a lot cheaper. And when we moved in, of course there was a whole they had rules and precautions and everything put into place. So it was about that point in time, because again I had been out of the house too much, but it didn't seem like too different from what I was already doing. I mean, I just had to go wear a mask when I went shopping and everything, and so it didn't seem too much. And then the second lockdown came, and then eventually the third after Christmas. Moved back home during those lockdowns for Christmas, and I was there for between December to March really, and then that's when I saw my filthy flatmates. I mean, I said in other videos, I normally clean up after my flatmates. Okay, I do. The problem is that the fact that they couldn't clean up after 3 months, and just again, it was decomposing food there. There was milk that was like a month old or half a month old in the fridge. Okay, behind that milk that expired on the 14th of February, there was one expired on the 27th of November. I hadn't even left yet. It was disgusting. It was just stuff. I mean, someone did try and move a few bags around, but it was disgusting. And I think I don't want to touch that stuff. It's just horrible. It's too much for me. Normally I would clean, but this is just something else entirely. The fact they wouldn't clean after themselves after 3 months, unbelievable. That's the greatest thing that has affected me. Even if you throw aside all my struggles of trying to get through my coursework online, poor internet connections, and trying to watch Zoom lessons and everything, and just trying to settle into this coronavirus, during this coronavirus pandemic world, it's the fact that I'm missing a huge section of my life right now. Honestly, it's very hard to describe. I mean, okay, I'll try and describe them. I feel like, and it's a bit coincidental that it's March, but honestly, I still feel like it's March 2020. It's very strange for me. I'm still half expecting the coronavirus pandemic, like the 15 days, whatever it was, like the 2 weeks, something to try and just spare the NHS the majority of cases. I feel like that's going to end at any point, and I'll be able to return back to my normal school year. It's a very peculiar feeling. Like, I know that time has passed. I finished my exams for that first year. I went through the summer holidays of that year. I passed my channel milestones in the growth. I had the past Christmas. I passed my birthday. I passed a whole lot of things. But I still feel like I'm stuck in March 2020. And it's weird, because now at this point in time, it's been almost a year since then, and so it's like I'm effectively missing a year of my life, which, given my age, it's quite a significant portion. Yeah, a lot of things have been affected by this for me personally. So obviously there's the fact of my lessons. The problem with geology is that it's a very hands-on subject, and so when it comes to Zoom lessons or just watching videos online, it's not the same. I need to be able to physically hold those rocks in my hands. I need to be able to look at them with a hand specimen, holding them in my hand, look at them with a lens. I need to be able to put a slide underneath a microscope and look at it and spin it and then change the light to cross-polarized to plane polarized. I need to be able to physically hold these rocks in my hands and look at the properties and everything. But all I've done is basically look at other people, or look at my tutors, look at my lecturers, look at rocks and stuff, spin them around the microscope, and drop hints about what they are and what we need to study about them. And it's not the same. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who may agree with it when it comes to their subjects too. It's not the same to just watch someone else do it. Geology is all about, you need to do it with your hands, and that's probably been one of the major points about my subject. It's been quite hard to do that. So I've been getting on quite well with my education, and I did pass my first year quite well. And having to get my first set of exams back, well, some of them back, I've done quite well in them as well, so I'm glad for that. So that's it. But the problem now is that I do feel like my experience with geology has been somewhat stunted by this pandemic, and with my new set of exams coming up, one of the things that we do need more is, again, we need more experience with rocks, and that's why we're trying to open up the lab as quickly as we can. And I'm looking forward to it because I really need it. Because it's not the same when you just look at stuff online. Mid-2019, I think it was the summer holidays, I've been studying for my driver's license, okay, to get my license. And so I passed the theory test fine. So basically you just sit there at the computer and click at things, and at any risks, you see. And I was given a set of my provisional license. I said, okay, you finished the theory, and now you need to finish the practical. So I said, okay. And then me and my driving tutor, we were practicing for a while, so we practiced for months. And she said that I was apparently getting up to test standard, just needed a bit more experience. You see, you have a set limit of time to take your practical test after you do your theory. And because of that, it's more than likely, if I ever did get a chance to book my practical test and rehearse beforehand, I'd have to retake my theory test again. And so what should have been me being able to drive, maybe by, what was it? It was, I think the plan was to get my driver's license. Yeah, it was by so the summer holidays in 2020. I was meant to go for my driving lessons then to practice on my practical, and then the problem is with my driving instructor. She was one of the vulnerable groups, so she had to basically put off her work for a long period of time. And so we did get some practice in. I think it was over Christmas. No, it wasn't Christmas. It was half term. I think it was. When I went back for Halloween or something like that. But what ended up happening was I got some practice done. I became a little bit better, especially with parking. But then I was unable to book anything. Like, they said, okay, if we're going to get this done, we're going to probably book this for your return for Christmas. Problem is, it was already fully booked then. And then there was a whole lockdown there and everything. And then there's still lockdowns there, so because of that, I haven't been in a car, driving a car in months. Driving a car is a significant part of life. Being able to drive a car, being able to have that freedom, being able to do that. Like when I was doing my project concerning my CV, when I was looking at that, one of the things on job descriptions that came up was the driving license would be preferable. Driver's license is necessary, and I don't have a driver's license now. I would have been able to do it if the pandemic hadn't been here, but because of that, I'm gonna have to probably retake my theory again and restudy for my practical and just try and relearn everything I had. So it's sad. I should have been getting my driver's license a year ago, but I've been unable to, which is a shame. When I came back in September, I hadn't seen my friends since, I think it was late February. Late February, early March. I hadn't seen my friends since then, so it had been months. How many months is this? Hold on. 7 to 8 months, okay? So it's a significant period of time. And we went there for one lesson, and then we went to one lesson, and I agreed to people. It was a bit strange seeing them again. It was a bit hard talking to people I hadn't seen in months. It's a bit hard, but I was like, okay, well, I'll get used to it and things will get back to normal. And for the few practical lessons that we did have in the lab, I managed to try and get along with them. I mean, I could tell it was going to take some time to get a real acquaintance with them, just to pick up the things where we left off things, really. But then the threat of the new lockdown came, and because of that, there were no practical lessons. They were all cancelled, they were all online and everything. And because of that, I haven't been able to see my friends since, I think it's been September. So that's another 7 months. So in like the last year, I've seen my friends maybe on maybe the same amount of occasion. I probably have more fingers than I've seen my friends within that period of time. I've seen them that little in person. My friends, they study the same course as me. We help each other. We ask each other for help. I mean, especially when we're doing our coursework and questions and exams and everything, we ask each other for help. We try and help each other understand. So I can communicate with them through like Messenger, but it's not the same. And I mean, I have a very good memory for certain things, and so I can remember the sounds of my friends' voices. I know what their voices sound like. I remember what they look like, but sometimes it's hard to imagine there's a person behind that image on like their profile image on Messenger or them waving in the background when they got the webcam turned on Zoom. It's hard to interact with them as I would, just simply being there in their presence, which it doesn't make me feel alone, particularly. I mean, I know that I haven't really been able. I've been not lonely in the sense that it's a negative alone. I mean, I'm one of those people that are fine whether I'm in a group or alone. But when you have friends, when you have a friendship, it's something you should nurture, right? It's like you're watering a plant, and you got to care for that friendship. But it seems like this plant has been stunted in growth massively. So maybe they wasn't receiving enough water, maybe it wasn't receiving enough sun. But I can feel that something has changed in that when I should be getting closer to my friends, but everything's been frozen. It's been stuck in a limbo for months and months on end. And it's sad. I used to walk a lot around my city. I mean, probably it was just going to me. It's good usually going to Tesco's, going to my university buildings, and then going to a place where I do some research. However, that place of research is temporarily closed because of a couple of people there are in the vulnerable group. My university buildings are pretty much closed. I've only been to them again a handful of times. And Tesco's is probably the only place I frequent, but that's because I need food to survive. So I guess you could see my image of because I live in a big city now. But my view of that city is somewhat constricted. I could walk to places by memory, I can't do that. But it's constricted now, it's almost like the world around me here has contracted. Like normally I'd be able to walk past buildings and streets and look down them and say, yep, there's a whole city or another 100 miles beyond that area. Without trying to sound like I'm trying to be all buff and everything. I have very strong legs. I used to do a lot of walking, especially when I was in the scouting movement. Plenty of hikes over my 10-year experience with them. But as my family can tell you, I didn't really leave the house much during those lockdowns. Mostly because there was no need for me to do so. And even if I did, it would have been risking catching the virus. And I didn't want to put my family at risk. So it's strange because when I went to go to Tesco's over the last couple of days, my legs have been aching quite heavily, and that's because I haven't been using them this much in months. So I'm not saying like my legs are like sticks now, they've atrophied, but it does give an indication of how restricted my life is now because of this pandemic. One positive thing that's come out of this pandemic for me personally is how much I've grown, at least I hope I've grown in this subject, intellectually and spiritually in that regard. So I've been doing a lot of research, and I can feel that's been helping me somewhat, because I typically don't like just to sit there and do nothing. I like to be doing something constantly. Not because I feel lonely and whatever when I'm not doing anything. It's because I don't like to waste time. So when I'm doing something, when I'm doing something, whatever it is, it just makes me happy because I'm using my hands, I'm using my head. In terms of spiritual growth, that's been a bit harder because perhaps the greatest pain that's caused me, that this lockdown has caused me, is the fact that I've been unable to go to mass as much as I want. I mean, last Sunday, okay, I was the first one to mass in 3 months. And since Halloween, I've tried to make a habit of going to mass every single day. Obviously, I had to go in online when I wasn't able to. And there were a couple of days when I couldn't go, or couldn't attend online mass because there were computer problems with I couldn't access the live streams or anything. And my priest did say at one point that one of the good things about the pandemic is that it has shown, it has pretty much divided people into who wants to, who want to grow close to Christ and who don't want to, who just see the pandemic as an opportunity to stop going to church, and then those who still want to strive to go towards church and go there immediately after the restrictions are lifted. So I'm one of the people who do want to go back to mass as soon as possible, and I'm glad I do have the opportunity to go. As I said before, my cathedral has very good measures when it comes to keeping clean and reducing the spread of the coronavirus there. I don't think I've known anyone who really has caught the coronavirus at that cathedral, which is good. Maybe some of you out there who aren't religious as me may not understand exactly what I mean by the idea that not going to mass causes me also pain. And I'll describe it like this to you: if you couldn't see the one you love most on earth, okay, if you couldn't see the one you love most, how would that make you feel? I mean, you may be able to Zoom call them, you may be able to write letters or call them, but if you couldn't see them in person, how would that make you feel? And that's basically how I've felt since lockdown, just being able to go to Mass. I mean, Mass is incredibly important. I've still been trying to go to Mass every single day. In fact, I try and generally shape my week around Mass, like my day. So, unfortunately, my lessons coincide with the Mass, which I'm glad for. And so everything I do is aimed at being able to attend Mass whenever I can. And I do pray for those out there who are struggling. There's been a lot of cases of depression and suicide and abuse have gone up. And it's heartbreaking to hear this. But I do feel that focusing on the spiritual side of things for me has helped me cope somewhat with the pandemic. Even if I live in this constricted world, which just consists of my room and Tesco's in my city, and just my home when I'm at home, I do feel like being able to try spiritually grow, to focus on that has helped me cope with it. So my life has been obviously quite heavily impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. So my exams, so my studies have been messed up, my personal life has been messed up, my friendships have been messed up somewhat, my understanding of my subject has been messed up. I try not to let that get to me. Whereas even if the world is falling apart around me, I try not to let all the chaos around me just mess up my life, to control me, to undermine everything, and just to make me feel weak and helpless inside. And it's maybe a bit hard for people who aren't as religious as me, or who aren't religious at all, to understand this, but I do feel like if there's one thing that has been pulling me through this pandemic, then it's definitely my faith. It's kept me strong. The prayers I've been doing, the masses I've been attending, the sermons I've been hearing. I do hope that the coronavirus pandemic does end soon. Okay, I really do, and I pray for it every day. Every single day, I pray that it ends soon. Okay? Every single day. And I hope that the world in general just slowly recovers from this, and everything starts improving, and people start recovering, and hearts become lifted again, and people are able to interact. I've got to be careful that this doesn't sound like the Tony Stark speech at the end of Endgame. Those who are grieving or suffering at the end of this for everything they've lost, I pray that there will be someone there to comfort them and to encourage them to look to the future. And obviously, you can't forget about the past, but I mean, the past is something that you may have to carry with you, the consequences of it. But that doesn't mean you can't focus on the future when doing so. So even if the coronavirus pandemic doesn't come to an end like tomorrow or anything, I do hope that there will be, if it continues progressing, more and more people find more and more efficient ways of just interacting with others and trying to get along with everyone, and trying to lift the hopes and hearts of everyone who have been suffering or being negatively affected by this, creating a great sense of community and helping each other live and recover and grow throughout this. All the students out there who've had their lives messed up by this, whether they're going to go to prom or do their exams or anything, I hope that whilst you may not be able to have a second chance to do those things, I hope that we will ultimately learn to maybe revise for the mocks, because you never know if the mocks will be your actual exams. If I were to make this a message centered towards the community, I would just say something along the lines of, make sure you don't forget anyone. I mean, even if there are introverts out there, make sure that they always know they have a place to go to, and always check on them, make sure that they're okay. Because whilst introverts may be able to handle stuff like this, at least they would be able to normally have someone to rely on, even if things didn't work out for them. But then they may feel like completely constricted in their own universe like that. And for all the extroverts out there who feel claustrophobic, hopefully the introverts out there can help, make you feel welcome and teach you how to cope with almost like the loneliness, and just help you remain strong. And if I were to speak almost directly to the person who's going to be writing that review about how the world coped during the pandemic, or how individual cases cope with the pandemic, well, then I would say that hopefully, whenever you are, whether you 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in the future, hopefully the pandemic has gone by then. Hopefully the world has started recovery by then. Hopefully things will start improving, and people's lives will start getting back to normal, and things will start repairing, and people grow closer, and ultimately learn from this experience. Whether you're religious or not, and you have someone to rely on, ultimately having faith in something does help you grow stronger. So whether you have faith in God to keep you strong, or whether you have faith that your friends and family will be there for you, hopefully that'll keep you going. And whilst I may not be able to say that there's definitely a light at the end of the tunnel at this point in the pandemic, I know that ultimately, regardless of how long the night is, because sometimes, as you know, those of you who live up near the poles, not exactly like you live in Arctic Circle or anything, but any of you that don't live directly around the equator, obviously their day and night fluctuate in length throughout the year. And some of you anyone who lives on the poles will know that there can be like 6 months of night, 6 months of day, and then you go further away, it'd be like, it can be like 4 months of night and 6 months of day, whatever. But ultimately, regardless of how long the length of the night is, the night will always end. The night will always end. So I may not be able to say with absolute certainty the pandemic will be over in a few months or even a year. I know that will inevitably come to an end. And ultimately, we need to keep pushing forward towards that. We'll do our part to try and keep safe and slow down the spread and help others who are struggling with this. I know some people may say it's pointless to pray, but I'm going to continue praying because I will. Ultimately, regardless of what impact coronavirus has on me and on my life, I'm going to keep pushing through it for the sake of my future and for the sake of remaining strong for myself and others. And I don't know where I'll be when you guys are watching this in future, but hopefully you guys will approach me about this and say, yeah, I saw the video during coronavirus pandemic back. I said, see, I told you it'd be over soon. Or see, I told you we need to be strong and the sense of community would need to be restored in each other. But yeah, so that's it really. So thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please do give a like, please share my videos, please do comment what you think of them. If you have videos you want me to do, you subscribe to my channel so you can see more of this content, and please ring the bell to keep up with my video releases. Next episode, it's probably going to be another coronavirus, or at least in this series, coronavirus update. It's probably going to just be another update of probably maybe another lockdown after Easter or something. But that doesn't mean I've lost hope that the coronavirus pandemic will end at any point. I do continue to hope and pray that it does end. To quote the words from the Prince of Egypt, the song When You Believe, although hope may be frail, it is hard to kill. So as long as you have hope, then you'll always have something to hold on to. Just don't ever lose hope. Make sure you study well for that book report, okay? When you write the report about the pandemic, make sure that you cite all your references, you put page numbers, you do it in the correct format, because believe me, you do not want to put the wrong format or the wrong reference format, because that's not going to do well with you, okay? You're going to lose marks about that. Always remember the references, okay? Good luck to you all in the future. See you next video, comrades. Until then.